What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best Arc Stormweaver build in Path of Exile 2 0.3 update. This setup takes the full advantage of the brand new Infusion mechanics by letting us unload insane amount of burst AoE damage while still maintaining off-screen clear speed that feels borderline unfair. This build feels smooth early on, scales like crazy later, and has a god mode energy when it really comes fully online. This is not just your average lightning caster, this is the mana stacking Arc Stormweaver, which is a build that completely rewrites how you think about resources. Instead of mana just being a bar you deplete when casting skills, it becomes the core stat that fuels everything, so offense, defense, sustain. All of these will tie back to one thing, the maximum mana. The more mana you stack, the more devastating Arc becomes, because the harder you shock enemies, the more effective your defenses become. By combining Stormweaver's Lightning Ascendancy tools with the Archmage scaling and intelligence gearing, this build transforms your blue orbs into the single most important stat in the game. Its chaining clears trash mobs like nothing else, and when combined with the Stormweaver bonuses and the mana scaling, its single target absolutely shreds bosses. Every chain, every crit, every shock is powered by investment that we poured into our mana pool, making the skill feel both satisfying and incredibly reliable. In backing up the Arc, we have new infusions. These will let us stack up burst windows where our damage goes into overdrive, and thanks to our mana synergy, we can easily afford it. And remember, if you want to check this build, look up the best items, the skill trees and path of building, then check my link in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM. They are a pro website that provides POE2 services like cheap currency, then even to trade all types of quality items and gems and much more. They have also more than 20,000 positive comments on Trustpilot, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KATE for extra 6% off. So let's take a look at our skill gems. At the heart of this build is the Arc. It's our bread and butter, our primary source of clear, and the spell that scales directly with our mana stacking approach. The gem supports here are focused on turning Arc into a powerhouse. So Archmage is mandatory, converting your massive mana pool into the raw damage. Then you want supports like the spell Echo for the rapid double casting, increased critical damage and a chance for scaling shock multipliers. When you're hitting with the Arc under a full set of infusions, it feels like chaining lightning storms across the entire screen. Next is the Orb of Storms, and this is more just a utility button. Orb of Storms will apply consistent shocks and the exposures by setting up enemies that take increased damage, but the real synergy here comes from combining it with infusions. So casting Orb of Storms essentially will prime your rotation, letting you build those infusion stacks that supercharge your Arc spam. You just need to place it down before every big fight and watch it boost your damage. Then next we got Mana Tempest, which is a crucial sustain skill. This one keeps your resources topped off and ensures that even in extended fights, you never feel starved for the mana. It creates those burst windows where you can spam Arc relentlessly without worrying. You'll learn to time it with your Orb of Storms and the Sigil of Power for the maximum effect. Speaking of which, the Sigil of Power is another gem that fits seamlessly into this build. It gives you an area of strength to fight inside, both by increasing your lightning damage and providing a layer of protection against heavy hits. You can drop it for the bosses or dangerous rares, and it turns those fights into controlled battlegrounds, where you're the one dictating the pace. Now let's talk about the passive tree. The essential psychology here is simple. Stack as much mana as possible, and then let every part of the build flow from that. Nodes that increase maximum mana, both flat and percentage based, are your top priority. Intelligence nodes are also highly valuable, as they boost mana while helping to meet the gem requirements. Once foundation is in place, you can branch into spell damage, lightning penetration and the shock effect nodes. These will ensure that the Arc feels deadly in both mapping and bossing. Shock effect in particular is critical because the Stormweaver's Ascendancy passives will reward you heavily for applying and scaling shock. The more consistently and powerfully you can shock, the more everything else will snowball. Cast speed is another core investment, because you're spamming Arc continuously. More cast speed not only makes the build smoother, but also increases the EPS by letting you fit more casts into each infusion windows. Then on defensive side, the tree grabs key nodes for the Mind over Matter and the Eldritch Battery by converting mana into effective mitigation. Life and energy shield clusters are also picked up with efficiency, but our true defense comes from regeneration and the recovery scaling. Mana recovery nodes ensure that even after big hits or heavy casting, your resource pool will snap back instantly, letting you keep casting and surviving. Then for cluster jewels and extensions, you want to look for curse effectiveness, lightning area of effect and mana recovery bonuses. These reinforce both the offense and sustain, keeping your build running at a peak power during extended fights. Then next we got our Ascendancy, and the first pick is the Strike Twice. This node doubles down on your shock uptime, letting every cast of arc apply stronger, longer lasting shocks. It immediately amplifies your both mapping and boss damage, and makes your lightning feel truly punishing. Then second, grab the Storm's Recollection. This one is all about resource sustain and the damage flow. It smooths out your casting, helps your mana regeneration line up with the Archmage scaling, and ensures that you can keep cycling Orb of Storms and the Mana Tempest without gaps. Then the third Ascendancy is the Constant Gale, which is the turning point where the build shifts from strong to monstrous. It supercharges your infusions, giving you those devastating burst windows where the bosses evaporate and map chain detonations around you. This node is the reason of why infusions feel so natural in this build. And then finally we cap this off with the Force of Will, which is a powerhouse that ties the whole package together. It multiplies your damage, reinforces your scaling, and it makes sure that your lightning not only shocks, but it obliterates. Now let's talk about the Atlas tree. With this build, the concept is simple: more monsters, more profit, and more damage windows. The more density on your screen, the better arc performs, chaining endlessly and multiplying its effectiveness. On the left side of the tree, you want to invest into the Essence and the Harvest. These are your crafting engines. Essence in particular is really good for locking in mana and intelligence rolls early and letting you piece together for strong gear in SSF. Then Harvest gives you deterministic upgrades that fit perfectly into the scaling path for this build. Then on the right side, you push into the strong boxes, the Lyrium and the Legion. These crank up your density through the roof. Legion especially will feel absorbed with the arc frozen armies, as frozen enemies erupt into lightning storms as soon as you pop them. And then Delirium maps let you show off chaining potential of your skills. And then finally at the top we wanna prioritize bossing notables. Maven, Evocation, Conqueror's Influence and the Elder nodes will ensure steady access to pinnacle fights, because this build shines in prolonged bossing encounters, so you always feel rewarded for pushing into the endgame content. Overall, the key here is not to scatter your points across every mechanic. Now let's move into the gear. The number one rule is to stack mana everywhere where you can. Every piece of gear is an opportunity to push your pool higher, and every roll of flat or percentage increased mana will directly scale your damage and survivability. For your helmet, the best in slot is the Aviana Tiara, ideally rolled with high flat mana, intelligence and resistances. Then for your offhand, the Sacred Focus is incredible, by amplifying the spell damage while also giving you room to scale mana-based defenses. Then for gloves, go with the Maligori's Virtuosity. The crit scaling here is huge, and it ties perfectly into the build shock mechanics. Then for boots we should get the Bangled Sandals, again to prioritize mana, movement speed and resistances. Then your body armor is the Altar Robe, which is chosen for its mana scaling potential and defensive flexibility. The belt is also absolutely non-negotiable, which is the Darkness Enthroned. Into this you also want to socket the Tain Granel's Rune of Mastery, or increased shock magnitude. This interaction is one of the biggest power spikes in the build, and you will feel the difference immediately. Make sure that your version of the belt also allows glove sockets so you can maximize customization. Then for rings, we want one with a topaz ring and one with a ruby ring, each one rolled with a flat mana, resistances and ideally intelligence. These will cover your defenses while scaling damage. And then finally for the amulet, we have the Lunar Amulet. Here you want +1 to all lightning or spell gems, alongside flat mana, intelligence and the maximum life. Then anointing this with a shock related passives or the lightning damage is a cherry on top. Overall, yes, the gearing path is demanding, but every upgrade feels monumental. By the time that you're stacking multiple high mana rolls across your gear, the damage and sustain will be to insane levels. And now finally, let's see how to actually play this build. From Act 3 and onwards, once you pick up the Mana Tempest, you will feel the core loop come online. The rotation for the bosses is straightforward but immensely satisfying. So you drop the Sigil of of power to set up your arena, then apply elemental weaknesses for the cursed multipliers, then cast Orb of Storms twice to stack your infusions, then pop the Mana Tempest to flood your mana recovery, and then unleash the arc spam until infusions expire, then rinse and repeat and watch the bosses melt under consistent shock chains. Then for general mapping it's even simpler, just pop the Mana Tempest, cast arcs, and let the chains do all the work. Most monsters won't even reach you before the lightning erases them. In denser content like the Legion or Delirium, you'll find the more monsters they are, the faster they vanish. It's that kind of a scaling that feels more OP the bigger the fight gets. And then defensively, we're constantly covered by the mana pool acting as a shield. Convalescence will give us a stain, while Eldritch Battery and Mind over Matter mean that you always have casting power even if you take a bit of a hit. Keep the Orb of Storms rolling for the shock and infusions, and your survivability will feel much better than a traditional Sorceress build.